Serenbe is a place where people live, work, learn, and play in celebration of life's beauty. And we're here to share the stories that connect residents and guests to each other and to nature. This is Serenbe Stories. Today's episode features a two-part interview with Jennifer Walsh, who talks about her years in the beauty industry, her deep love of nature, and her mission to connect us to the natural world. The first part of our interview was recorded in fall 2019 with the intention of kicking off our third season this fall. But with everything happening in the world today, we realized Jennifer's perspective and love of nature is the inspiration we could all use right now as we are sheltering in place. So we talked to her again this April while she sheltered in New York. And we hope this conversation will give you the encouragement to find those moments to get outside into the beauty of nature. Please enjoy this episode of Serenbe Stories. But first, Serenbe Stories is brought to you by the Inn at Serenbe. The Inn is nestled in the rolling countryside of bucolic Serenbe, where guests can walk on the 15 miles of trails through preserved forest land, the wildflower meadow, and the animal village. You can relax by the pool, hot tub, or in rocking chairs on the wraparound porch, play on the croquet lawn, swings, and in-ground trampolines. Connect with nature and each other, all while staying in luxurious rooms on the inn grounds or within the community of Serenbe. Book your stay today at serenbeinn.com. So I want to welcome everybody back today. I'm here with Steve Nygren.
Good afternoon.
Today we have a special guest. This is Jennifer Walsh of Walk with Walsh. She's here in Serenbe with us. She founded the first omni-channel beauty brand in the U.S. with the creation of Beauty Bar, which many of you may have heard of. It consisted of a brick and mortar locations, about 4 of them, all in Florida, a website, and a weekly TV show. She launched this in 1998, years ago, kind of back, Steve, when you were barely even thinking about Serenbe. Sold it in 2010, and we're here to hear about her whole Serenbe story.
It's great to continue the conversation. And Jennifer, we are so honored and delightful to have you here and your voice walking the trails of Serenbe.
I can't even tell you. I'm so honored, first of all, to be here and just thrilled to be back at Serenbe. I was kind of counting down the days to come back. I wasn't sure how I was going to come back, but I really wanted to be back and be in this magical place. I tell everyone wherever I go, this is one of the most magical places I've ever seen in the world.
Oh,
Thank you.
We love to hear that.
Oh.
And we hear that so much. And the sad part is the way we've been dealing with the built environment, that this is magical, yet this is the way every place should be and how it was 50, 80, 100 years ago.
You're so right. And it's funny, I remember saying something to you when I first met you and we talked, I said, I think this is the most thoughtfully planned place I've ever seen. You said, no, it's just common sense. I said, oh my gosh, you taught me something. You're right. This is just common sense to you. So more people, I hope, get into that same mindset. And I think you're actually spreading that message to so many people that need to hear it. So it resonated with me very deeply. So I'm thrilled to be back here again.
That's great.
So I would love for you guys to share how you first met and you came into our lives.
Sure. I remember very, very well.
Okay.
It was actually just a year ago at the Global Wellness Summit when we were in Cesena, Italy. And it was the very first night, I think it was like cocktail hour, and I met Dan Buettner of the Blue Zones. And we were talking about Walk with Walsh and doing videos. He said, oh, wait, come here with me right now. You had to meet my friend Steve Nygren. And he dragged me over to you. I think we were just all getting there, and I said, tell me more about what you're doing. And so you gave me a little intro about Serenbe. And I said, that sounds great. You gave me your card. And I remember holding on to it saying, oh, I love the bee on the card. And this sounds really interesting. And I have to remember to look into this when I get back to New York. And I remember just kind of following you a little bit more. And then January, I saw you again in New York City at Hearst Tower at the releasing of the trends at the Global Wellness Institute and Summit. And that's when I met Monica as well. So it was kind of all over. The combustion happened. I said, okay, let's do this again. Let's get together some other way.
Isn't that great fun?
Yeah.
And, I often think about great movements, especially in the art movement, and you read the history and you think, how did all those people know one another?
Yes.
Isn't that curious? And now here we are in the environment and wellness community. And of course, here I am talking to these two great voices, Dan Buettner of Blue Zone and Jennifer Walsh. And you can see, because the communities are small, and so you do gather in these special places and conferences, and you get to know each other with like-minded people, and you see how movements that people do know one another.
It's true. It's funny because Nancy Davis from the Global Wellness Summit, everyone that knows Global Wellness Summit knows Nancy Davis to be such a force of nature. And she, the very first time I met with her, she knew I had been in beauty for 20 years. And she said, no, this is your community. This is your tribe. And I said, I want a tribe. I want a community that speaks my language and talks about nature and wellness and health. And here it is a year later, and my life has really changed after that.
Well, and what's so incredible now is we're starting to look at various aspects of wellness, that there's actually the research about beauty and how it affects our mental, which affects our actual physical. And so while that was sort of, in fact, I think it was Nancy and Susie Ellis of Global Wellness Summit that really had that a focus of a conference a couple years ago. And the beauty was a major topic.
Yeah. Not surprised at all.
Do you guys want to tell us a little bit about the Global Wellness Summit and sort of how you both got involved with that?
Well, mine was just a year ago. It was just my first, I'd always heard about Global Wellness Summit and the Institute, but meeting Nancy Davis, again, it's all through connections of I'm seeking people in this field. And then it was through different people in New York City. And they said, you need to meet Nancy. And we did. And then she said, you need to get to the summit. You have to find a way. I can't get you there personally, but you have to find a way. And I'd already been doing some work with Weight Watchers, WW, which is now called, and Mindy Grossman, who's also a part of the Global Wellness Summit. She knew I led wellness walks in Central Park. And she said, she and the team said, we want you to come on behalf of WW and host your wellness walks with WW at the summit for all the delegates. So I did that, and I got to lead my wellness walks for whoever wanted to walk in the morning. And then I also spoke on a panel about beauty and wellness. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone's listening and you do not know about the Global Wellness Summit, you should really Google it or find out about it. They have a webpage. They have the big conference here in a couple of weeks in Singapore.
Yes.
So they really all over the world, and it brings thought leaders in the wellness space around. I first was introduced to them because someone who lived here, Claire Mazzarano, was head of WebMD at the time, and she had been invited to be a key speaker at their conference in India.
Oh, wow.
And it was about wellness and really how the wearables were going to affect us. And now this is like 6-7 years ago, I believe. And so 7 years ago, this was really a leading trend that she was talking to. And she started telling Nancy and Susie about this place she lived that was really about, the environment and health. And that followed up that Nancy and Susie decided to come see what this was all about. And I remember them saying, oh, now I understand wellness real estate. So I believe their visit here is what really started them thinking about the research about wellness real estate, which has now been released and show it's really the great trend. But they've been able to brilliantly put all these various pieces together under one big ball that they're looking at. And so now in the 7 years, I have been to absolutely every one of their conferences. Because the people in the tribe that you start to meet there is incredible from the various areas.
That's fantastic. I love that.
And January was phenomenal because that was sort of an opportunity for us to go represent Serenbe, but also hear about the leading trends in research. And so what was interesting, Jennifer, is that was one of the things that you did the research paper on. Can you tell me a little bit about the name of it? Because it was focused on nature and sort of how did that come about? Because, now this was 6 months later.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
It was after the summit and meeting Susie and really spending time with Susie and Nancy and the whole team. They knew my love of all things nature, and they knew that I've been really studying and researching and spending so much time in it, not only as a practitioner, but really deep in this research mode. I get a little nerdy when I start talking about the science behind nature because I love it so much. And so Nancy said, we'd love for you to write the trend because you are so closely connected to it. So it was such a huge opportunity for me to really dive even deeper into something that I already love. So to have an opportunity, said, yeah, I'd love to write this trend and then be able to present it to a lot of my peers because I am in the media in New York and I write for numerous magazines. And here I am at Hearst Tower, the tower where I work sometimes with some teams there. It was fun to be there with so many people that are, again, like-minded, but also that are outsiders that want to learn more about the wellness space. So that's how I got to be there.
I love it. And that was a great joy to meet you. And you came down then. You said, oh, I'd love to interview Steve
yes.
for a walk. And so That was the first time that you came, which I think was May or June of this year. April, okay. And we did that walk. And then from that, we had, through another relationship, our really good friends at Mother Dirt said they would love to do something here at Serenbe. So we put you together with them, and they're sponsoring your current walks that you're doing here. And so tell me a little bit about a few of the people that you're interviewing this week.
Oh my gosh, it's been so much fun. First of all, it's like you guys ordered up the weather because it's been so beautiful. Not that it's never not beautiful here, but just the weather's just been so, so when you get to come here, it's that the exquisiteness of peacefulness that you just it just flows right over you. So when you get here, it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm in a space where I know it's almost a sacred space. And when you walk in nature and you're here and you get to interview people that are like-mindedness, it's just a beautiful experience. So even like Kim Severson from the New York Times is a food critic, and so we talked to her and she even said, I'm feeling like I'm in a spiritual place when I'm here walking in nature. I said, oh my gosh, she's a New York Times writer and she's saying the same things that we feel. And we talked a lot about the food, the state of food and nature on our plate. And that was really interesting. And Carrie Pay, I mean, there's so many great people that were coming. So to have Mother Dirt, a beauty brand that I love, and again, being in beauty for 20 years, to be able to put this together with Serenbe to host these walking video series is so special. It's really just special to tell such great stories of people that are doing impactful and beautiful work in beauty and in nature and with nature.
And nature is sacred. And when we build in relationship with it, then you feel that sacredness.
Absolutely.
And so many times we're building in opposition to it.
You're absolutely right.
And you feel the tension when you're in their big cities.
Yes. I feel that way many days. I always think, that's why I had to try and start my days in Central Park, just so that's my meditative practice, is really going to the park every morning. I try and go as early as possible as soon as I wake up. And some people do yoga and some people do some kind of meditation. But for me, the walk in the park is my meditation, and to be really, really quiet. And I love the different seasons too, to kind of hear the rustling of the trees or the leaves that are falling now. And then winter will come and it'll be so cold. And then just the crackling of the branches. And there's nothing else. It's just that beauty of it. So I love that time because, again, then I have to go up against all the honking horns and then the buildings and all the commotion. So it's just a steadying of the mind and the soul.
That's great. Can you step back and share your larger history with us? I'd love to know more about the beauty bar background. We haven't really talked a ton about that in our time together. Sure. Can you share how did you open it? Like what led you to open a retail?
It's a great question. I didn't know anything about retail. I knew nothing about retail. I knew I had this thought in my, I started out at Merrill Lynch, but on the side I was doing makeup artistry. As a side job in like the mid 90s. So Merrill Lynch taught me a lot. I got to learn about finance, which was what I needed down the road. And the makeup started to take over. I remember telling my parents at one point saying, I'm leaving my corporate job. I'm going to start something. And they said, oh God, no, don't do it. Because they just thought, well, again, this is in the mid 90s, late 90s, where there weren't many people going off to start businesses, and especially not women. So they just worried a lot. And I had this love of makeup, and I was doing more and more makeup for TV, movie stars and singers. Jessica Simpson, Pink, Justin Timberlake, Destiny's Child, before it was just Beyonce, all these different celebrities. And on a fluke, a friend of mine was a TV producer for the news. And he said, my actual guest fell through. I need you to come on air tomorrow morning. I'll never forget it. I need you to come on tomorrow morning and bring your makeup kit and talk about the brands that you're using on the makeup, on the celebrities. I said, oh, no. I can't get in front of the camera. I do the makeup for the people in front of the camera. I can't. He said, please, I'll owe you for the rest of my life. That was February 1997, and I've been on TV almost every single month since that time. And it just kind of spiraled into this weekly segment that people were very interested in. They call the studio. So what was happening was I was talking about these brands that had never been heard of before. And I was bringing on these brands that people were like, what is that? Because this was pre-Sephora, pre-Ulta, pre-Blue Mercury, and other retailers. And the department stores were only selling 5 or 6 brands, such as Chanel, Estee Lauder, Prescription, or Prescriptives, and Clarins maybe. So it's very limited. So here I am talking about these really crazy brands that no one had ever heard of. So people were getting mad, and they said, why are you talking about this if we can't find it? Again, this is before the internet, which you remember, like in the 90s, there was whatever. So I thought, well, if I have this conduit of education called TV, what if I can open something that people could come in and experience the beauty? And that's how I created Beauty Bar. Again, it was like 600 square feet of not sure what I'm going to do, but it was a beautiful little space and it's such beautiful light across the street from the beach. And I just thought, this could be something really special. And I had like $30,000 in savings, and I took furniture out of my house and put it into the store because I was like, what am I going to spend the money on? I don't have money. So, it was just funny. And I was hanging up, wood fixtures from Home Depot. It was really scrappy times. So that's how it started.
That's great. What kind of brands were you covering at the time?
So at that point, it was limited. It was Philosophy was just coming out, and QVC was just starting to sell Philosophy. So Philosophy, L'Occitane, Kiehl's, and these brands, again, people didn't know of them. They really didn't hear of them, so they didn't understand why I was selling products that were $12. Like, why are you selling soap that's $12? I said, it's triple milled from France. Come on. But I saw it as an opportunity to educate people a way that they had never been educated before. So, and I wasn't into the hard sell. I hated being oversold at department stores. So I thought if I could make this into a place of like coming into my living room and people could just be in my home and feel warm and invited and not a cold sale, that's kind of how I did it. So people would just come in and they'd stop by because the coffee shop was right next door and the local small little wine shop was here. And it was a big community. And very quickly I realized that I could have an impact on the community that I never thought possible. It's just the way I treated people. And I thought, I had no idea this by simple actions could really make such a difference. And I tried to impart that with all my staff as I grew the business. And it was a really special time in my life. It was really great. And then, of course, then became the biophilic design that I didn't even realize I wanted or had. So I didn't even know there was a thing. Because when I grew the business, then I said, well, I want to make the next door with slate walls. And I want it to be green. And I want beautiful wood features. And I was only 28, 29, 30 years old. So all these bigwigs from New York were coming down saying, you should have it pink, and you should, and all the you shoulds. I could write a whole book about the you shoulds, but I didn't want to have chandeliers. It wasn't me. I wanted everyone of any age, background, color, demographic to come in and feel comfortable. I just wanted to be warm and inviting, and that's how I felt best about it when I've had nature and big trees in the stores, and it's kind of how it rolled out.
When did you identify the connection with the biophilic design? And
maybe last year.
Okay.
Long after I sold it. But it was funny because I never thought about it. It was just kind of innately a part of what I felt. Yeah, it was already in me. What I've always been outdoors my entire life, even growing up in the Bronx. But it was always a part of how I connected to one another and connected to others was through the comfortable design of, how does it make you feel if you're in here, and like just nice music and just being so close to the beach, and always wanted windows. And so I learned a lot about biophilic design just in the past 10 years, I'd say, after I sold it. 100
years ago, we were primarily an agricultural society, and we were connected to nature in a very real way. And so we didn't have to label it.
Exactly.
It was just, we all knew it. That's what you're tapping into, is just that knowing.
That's right. Absolutely. It's funny how that happens. You just say, okay, this feels good. Makes me feel good. I'm hoping it makes others feel good. And when you treat people with respect and honor and care and empathy, I think then you get the same feedback from them to always want to be with you. And it was a really fun time to also grow a team that I never had before. So how do I grow a team from nothing and not really know how to do it? But always just lead by example. Never told people what to do. I wanted to be the first ones cleaning the toilet. I'll clean the toilet first so I can show that if I do it, we can all do it. I'm going to clean the floor. Maybe someone else will do it tomorrow. It was nice. It was hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was really hard. But yeah, it was great.
And so you ended up with 4 stores, a website, weekly TV show, and then you sold it all.
Yes.
In 2010.
I did.
And were you still in Florida? You moved to New York at that time? Or?
I was still in Florida, and it was 2008 was really tough. The market crushed me. So I was robbing Peter to pay Paul because one of the stores was do better than the other. And it was just, I was learning a lot. And also at the same time found out by 2009, my CFO was not taking care of the bills. So it was really traumatic. and very tumultuous time in my life, and I had to sell the company. So that company that bought me out was based in New York, and it was called Quidsi, and Quidsi owned diapers.com and soap.com. So they were already $100 million, $200 million business by then. They brought me on board, and they didn't want the stores. They just wanted the online space, because now by that time, the online space was outselling even the stores. So I moved back to New York, left everything behind, and it was very surreal. Because I had like a 2,500 square foot house, and I was married and had a stepchild, and all of a sudden I'm pared down to like a little 600 square foot, like going back to my first store. I was just like in a little tiny space in New York, and starting kind of over again. But it was a whole new chapter, and it was scary and exciting all at the same time. And I was going home because I'm from New York. So it was kind of like, ooh, I'm going back to see my cousins and my aunts and uncles and friends of the past. So.
And today you're still up there. You're still up
there 10 years later.
Yep. And I know there's a fun story that you told me about an annual tradition you do with your parents on the New Jersey shore.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell me about this?
Oh,
it's very cool.
Well, I didn't like it when I was a kid. So I've of course learned to love it so much. So we have a tent. So I basically live in a tent almost all summer. My parents live in a tent the entire summer. They live in a beautiful home in a place called Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. And it's a lovely and gorgeous gated community. And they leave that to go live in a tent. And we've been doing it for 30 years. So there's a town called Ocean Grove, New Jersey, which is a cute beach town. It's been around for 150 years. And when they first started the town, they put up 1,000 tents. So those 1,000 tents are now 114 tents. And of course, there's a beautiful Victorian town that's built around it. There's actually a Methodist church in the middle of the town. We're like the only non-Methodist in the city. But anyway, the rogue Catholics in the town. But anyway, it's such a magical place because it's so much like Serenbe. I think I read something, Steve, that you wrote saying it takes me a half an hour to get my mail because you're so many people that you see along the way. And I think that's the Ocean Grove story as well, because we live in these tents. It is maybe 20 foot by 20 foot canvas, but then the back of it is a cabin. So the cabin can be air conditioned, and it has a kitchen and bathroom, and some of them are really done up nice, but everything gets put, even everything in the canvas portion gets put into the cabin during the winter. So it gets boarded up. So we don't have anything fancy in there. So when we then roll it out in May, so it's May 15th to September 15th, the tents are open. And it's just so much like Serenbe, and the fact that they're little tiny, like it's just, we're all so closely connected. You can hear each other sneeze. You say, God bless you through the tent. We have tent voices. So you have to make sure you speak kind of quietly at times, especially in the mornings. But we have all grown up there. So it's passed down from generation to generation. And there is a 15-year waiting list to have one, because there's only 114 right now, because it is so magical. And you really have to love to be around your family in close quarters. You have to really love each other. But it's lovely. It's lovely. I'm thankful that I've grown up there for 30 years, and it's right there on the boardwalk. And I don't wear shoes pretty often. I kind of am in my biome. Like I think of Dr. Zach Bush all the time. I'm always like walking barefoot, which I've always done. Got my first job there. Ice cream scooping, but it's really a beautiful way to experience the sounds. I can hear the rain, and I love hearing the rain. The rainstorms are my favorite, and hearing the squirrels. It's just, you smell the sea breeze. It's just so delightful.
So it's fun watching your eyes just light up as you've talked about these two key things, connecting to nature and connecting to each other as people.
Yes.
Which now we're finding are essential ingredients to how we live. Yet we've been building places that remove us from both of those.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It was funny because when we interviewed Carrie Pay the other day, and she talked about her porch, she just kind of sat there with a glass of wine, and then more and more people kept coming over, and she had like 10 or 15 people on her porch, and she then said to them, this was the best birthday I've ever had. And they didn't even know it was her birthday, but she didn't want them to know. She just said, this is what it's all about. And you create this community here that's so celebrating one another, and of all ages. That's why I love it here. You see such young little infants, and then of, 80s, 90s, and go on. It's just fantastic, because I feel the same way in Ocean Grove. I get to sit next to my neighbor that is almost 90, and then we have newborns at the end of the street. It's just delightful. It's delightful. It's the way to live.
Okay, we're going to come visit.
I know.
I'm going to come next summer.
I know, right?
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Obviously, you're doing the walks, which is fantastic, and we're going to continue doing that series here this fall. But what else are you working on?
Oh my goodness. There's so many fun things. And again, it's like one of those things when I started really, for a while, I'll tell you really honestly, I had my business hat on for so long. So I was running a big company for such a long period of time. Then I started another company. So I always had this business hat. And I thought, no one's going to believe me if I'm talking about nature. That doesn't sound very business-like. And I was going on these business shows on MSNBC or CNN, and I always talk business. So I thought, if I start talking nature talk, they're going to think I'm crazy and not think that I'm a viable business person. And I said, you know what? Forget it. That's the ego speaking and not really my heart speaking. And I had to speak to my heart and say, I really need to know what I know is right. And that's to get people back outdoors in nature. So I am leading wellness walks, very in tune with what forest bathing is, and take people for walks in Central Park, whether it be corporations or schools, hotel guests in New York City, which has been great. I've even been doing them for brands that are launching new products that are based on nature. So I've been traveling around the country for different events to lead walks. And it's really interesting the feedback I get, because I never say, so how do you feel? But I get lots of feedback saying, you just taught me exactly what I already innately knew, but didn't want to, I pushed it aside because life is so busy. So it's been delightful to kind of have those experiences with the young and the old in Central Park and elsewhere. So the wellness walks have been great, and doing this video series here at Serenbe has been so special to really, again, bring the focus back to people that are doing things in nature that are so impactful and so necessary. The conversation has to be about nature on our plate, nature in our backyard, nature. We are nature, so we have to remember without that we are nothing. So I'm really happy about doing that and working on a book. Whole bunch of different things.
And a big thing, one of the people you're going to interview is Barry Rafferty.
Yes.
Who's the CEO, first female CEO of a major
of Ketchum.
Of Ketchum. And you just went on their board.
Yeah, there's a new
Advisory
wellness
board?
council. So there's a council they're just starting. It's called the Wellness Council, and there are 5 of us, the first 5 founding members of their wellness council. And I get to speak to my area of expertise, which is nature, which is really delightful. I'm so excited to be a part of this and bring the conversation to a larger scale and international, because Ketchum is worldwide. And I'm really excited to be able to share the data that I've accumulated and studied and learned to hopefully a broader audience, and really bring it back to more brands and more people that say, oh, this is really, and it's really important.
And one of those things was, you told me there was this NGP, which is your nature green print. Is that right? So, but that I thought was super cool, because that's a whole different side. It's sort of taking the walks. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an idea to take, okay, how do I then implement this for schools or for corporations or even individuals in their homes? So I called it the NGP, the Nature Green Print. So it's something basic, but something that's so important. People say, oh, it is, instead of just doing yoga, or instead of just getting, on a diet, or whatever the fads are out there, if we're not in tune with nature, nothing else will work, because we're out of tune. Nature is our center. So the Nature Green Print is just a way to implement things in corporations, and also get outside. So it's a time to, take time outside, but also how do we bring nature back inside in the corporate offices and integrate what people are using and make people healthier. So thanks for the question.
No,
fantastic.
Thanks.
Really excited. Any other final comments or thoughts? I know.
Besides moving here?
Well, we would love that. Trust me, Garney would be very happy.
I'm trying. It's honestly I don't want to leave tomorrow, but I'm excited about coming back, and I love coming back and just seeing so many new things that are just happening, and it's beautiful growth.
Well, and you see all the New Yorkers that have second homes here, or some are primary homes here, even though their offices in New York, because the connection with our airport just connects you very closely.
I get it, Steve. I get it. I know what you're trying to do, and drinking the Kool-Aid.
And you see, the cost of living is so great here that you can go back and forth, and you're still money ahead.
I know. It'd be so easy. You're right. I know.
Tell us your quick Instagram story the other day. You were doing an Instagram story, and you said you got 3 people from New York.
Oh, yes. So it was so interesting, because I love Instagram to tell stories. I really... people can say what they want about Instagram. I really don't care that much about whatever. But I love telling stories visually, and I love nature. And I think nature is such a beautiful storyteller in itself, and just like listening to the sound of the breeze or whatever. So when I posted some pictures and some videos, I had 3 different groups of people that I didn't even, one I knew, kind of know, but I don't know personally. And they said, oh, I have a house there. Oh, I've heard all about this. Oh, I'm coming there. Oh, and I just heard someone else this morning, by the way, that I've known from the University of South Carolina, because I used to have another company about college, but that's a whole other story. Her daughter's moving here. So she's leaving. I'm going to find out more in the next few days, but she's actually going to be here next week. So I'm going to see her when I come back.
Amazing.
And she works at the University of South Carolina. She's a professor there.
Amazing.
So her daughter is going to be here. So again, it's all these little connections. So the more I speak about it, the more I love hearing who and why they're here, because they all have unique stories of why.
And probably what you're finding out is the tribe. This is the place the tribe can come together. And people many times said, well, who is that tribe? And I've identified it's people with hope.
Oh, that's so true.
Because Serenbe really is an example of that, and all the things you're doing, and people that have hope and are out there doing things. This resonates with them, and so we kind of all come together.
It's interesting you say that. I love that hope. Hope is such a guiding force and guiding light for all of us. It's hard for some people, and I think one of the women that wrote to me about saying that she's moving here full time because she has a house here. She said that she's had a lot of health scares, and that they're done with New York, and just that tension. It's just that trauma that we instill on ourselves by living there. And she said we wanted a healthier lifestyle, and we knew that Serenbe was that answer. And I thought it was so beautiful. I felt it. I totally understood what she was saying, and I think more and more people will see and hear and smell and taste and activate all of our senses. But that's why I think also, like being here, you're activating your senses all the time.
Absolutely.
You really do. Yeah.
You feel it.
You feel it. Yeah.
No, you many times, and especially some of the people like you who help share the stories. I know when I walk with the Audubon people and the birdies, I feel that I have seen the forest in silence because they hear and they can identify all those noises. Or I walk with one of our experts that knows all the wild plants and all that are out there, and suddenly, gosh, have I been seeing the forest in black and white?
Absolutely.
And so with bringing voices like yours and others here, everything becomes much more alive.
I love that. So true.
Well, I want to thank you so much for spending time with us, Jennifer, and Steve, of course. Can you tell us where we can find you on social or on the web? Can you give us?
Sure. My website is walkwithwalsh.com. Instagram is my favorite place. It's the Jennifer Walsh, THE, the Jennifer Walsh. And Twitter's behind the brand, but I'm mostly on Instagram. For
Great.
Sure.
Well, wonderful. We will all follow you and follow us back.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you all for having me. I love being here, and it's such a special place, and I just carry it with me everywhere I go. So thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Our pleasure.
Well, thank you.
All right. So Jennifer, welcome back. Steve, we spoke to you, Jennifer, 6 months ago.
Can't believe it's been 6 months.
Wow.
Can't believe it.
And we're recording this on Zoom, so we can all see each other, but we'll save all of our listeners from our visuals here. But and Jennifer, I saw you in New York early February before this crisis with COVID sort of was really taking center stage in our lives. But we wanted to sort of catch up with you and find out not only what's going on today and how you've been affected, but really talk about what's gone on and what's happened since we saw you in the fall here at Serenbe. And all of the wellness walks are out now. And it sounds like you've gotten great feedback on them.
Yes, it's been wonderful. It's been such great feedback. Oh, I had such a great time at Serenbe. And it's funny, people ask me all the time, okay, is Serenbe as magical as you make it look and sound? I said, well, the look and sound is Serenbe. I just show up. It is that magical. So yes,
but you show up in a wonderful way that really highlights some of the advantages here. So we thank you for that.
Oh, you're too kind, Steve. Thank you.
Jennifer, one of the things that you talked about on your interview was you had jumped on a Ketchum board for wellness. Can you tell us a little update on how that's gone or what's going on with that?
Yeah, it was great. It was for a short period of time. So so many things have happened since we last met, but of course, things have been put on hold for a little while. But the wellness board for Ketchum was wonderful. I met some great people through it and really just shared our voices of how we come together in different aspects in wellness. Of course, mine was spending time in nature. And that being the wellness attribute that people should really consider, not just outside, but how we bring nature indoors, of course.
Mm-hmm. I saw you. We got together for a little bit of time in early February, like maybe the second or third, so 2 months ago now, and COVID was barely mentioned. It wasn't really in the U.S. at that point that we know of. And you were like at the top of your game. You had just done a talk for the National Retail Federation. Yeah. You had been doing a ton of walks. You were going to a ton of dinner parties, interviews, and
they were rolling along really nicely.
It was amazing. And then sort of the past 2 months, everything's kind of come crashing down. It's not just you, it's everybody. But tell us a little bit sort of like what happened in February, what happened in March, and what's going on today.
It's been surreal. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible, but it's been a very surreal few weeks, to be honest, because things were like the National Retail Federation. Speaking at that, I spoke at a few other functions here in the city, and we're planning to speak at other events in April and May. And of course, that's all been kind of put to rest for now. We're going to reschedule for later date. But yes, people were getting excited about doing more walks. They were having more of their companies coming to me saying, hey, we want to host company-wide wellness walks with you once a week, or can we do something once a month with you to really leverage the importance of spending time outdoors in nature and to learn about the nature effect and how it affects our bodies and our brains. So things were really, really great. And then the end of February came along, beginning of March, and everything was turned upside down because every week it kept changing, especially in New York City. The news was changing so quickly that all of us, everyone in business, had to keep changing their message and what they were offering and what they want to help people get to know better, especially in the wellness space.
I know early March you had put out a call, which you do for your wellness walks. And, I believe you had told me that something like within 24 or 48 hours, you had a quarter's worth of bookings because people were so interested in getting outside. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's fascinating because there's all of a sudden this like uptick of people saying, oh, well, I want to get outside. I didn't think about that because now the gym started closing very quickly. Things started shrinking in terms of what people were allowed to do. And people said, oh, I didn't think about walking as a mindfulness meditative practice. They were just walking to get their steps in. And they were trying to, when people visualize walking, they think of it almost like running. And walking like that and running is very different practice than doing a forest bathing kind of walk or a wellness walk. It's just a very reflective, mindful, meditative practice. And people were I had every hotel group, I had individuals, I had corporations big and small saying, can we come and do a 5-person, a 20-person? I would try and max it out 20 people per group, but I was getting bookings upon bookings upon bookings. So it was fascinating, like overnight. Mm-hmm. And then it ended just as quickly as that. So, but it was all really interesting because people all of a sudden started saying, oh, and it was great feedback because people were like, oh, I always innately knew this was the right practice, but no one gave me the okay that this was normal to feel this way. No one ever told me that I'm not crazy feeling like nature felt good to me and why. So it was kind of fun to just lead that conversation.
Right. Well, and I know that you also continued, because I know in our interview, you talk about how that is a meditative practice for you to walk in the park every day. And so obviously you continue to do that. That was acceptable still is underneath, I think, the shelter in place. I haven't kept up the past week. We're interviewing you in, mid-April right now, but you got some pushback because you continue to sort of document your walks and talk about them and how amazing nature was. But I noticed, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, and you got pushback from people.
I have had quite a bit of pushback from people saying, it's called shelter in place for a reason. Why are you outside? You should be using your voice for telling people to be inside. It's so foolish of you. Like, they're really, really hitting home and pushing me to a way that I really appreciate the conversation because The governor's telling us we can go outside. The mayor, I'm not saying anything that we cannot do legally. We should be spending time. They even said, go for your walks. Don't stop going for your walks. But I'm seeing that I'm trying to give people reasons to go outside earlier in the day. I said, go out at 6 a.m. in the morning, 6:30. It's lighter in the morning now in New York City. Go outside at 7, 8, 9, 10 a.m. There's no one outside. I could go for a walk at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning from my apartment through the park, and I don't see anyone within a 10, 20-foot radius of me at all, period. No one on the streets, no one in the park. So I try and just say, it's not that we shouldn't be going outside. We need fresh air. So it's also been a great educational tool for me to say, this is why we need fresh air. Apartment buildings are known for bad air. They're like really bad. There's no circulation. It's kind of like being in an airplane 24/7. So if people are not opening their windows, they're not going on their rooftop or just going outside, they're just breathing in this really unhealthy air. And then on top of that, we're using all these really toxic ingredients to scrub our apartments. And it's like, I think if you saw, like I said, it was like a recipe for disaster. Our immune systems are just being clobbered by all the bad things we're doing by being indoors all day. So I've been thankful to be able to, people have been pushing me back, but I've been able to at least share all the things I've learned over the years of why we should be going outside and why we need to look outside, why we need to open our windows. So I don't mind the pushback at all. I don't mind. It's been an opportunity for me to share more in a more scientific way and more like what happened during the 1918 pandemic. Same kind of things happening now, where they discovered that in 1918, that people were getting healthier outdoors with fresh air. And they called it a disinfectant. The doctors didn't know why fresh air was acting like a disinfectant for people. So I learned a lot even from the people that were giving me some feedback that they said, you shouldn't be doing this. I said, well, this is why we should be doing it. Even in a city of 8 million people, it's important to spend some time outside.
Are the parks still open there right now?
Playgrounds are not. So playgrounds are not open, but parks are open. So thank goodness, Central Park is still open. You can still walk the waterways. There's so much space to be outdoors. The parks in Brooklyn, all the parks are still open, thank goodness. So I'm worried about these people that are still meeting in clusters. Like they did an aerial view yesterday on a helicopter flying over and seeing these groups of people like doing whatever kind of CrossFit workouts, kind of things like that. That were meeting in small clusters and working out together. And the governor came on and said, that's not how this works. We're not supposed to be doing that. So I hope that doesn't ruin it for all the other people that are going out there just to go for their run or their walk. Because even when I do go out in the afternoon for maybe a run and not necessarily a walk, I do see a lot of people just enjoying. It's a beautiful time of year in New York City right now. If everything's blooming and it's just spectacularly gorgeous out right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know Steve and I were talking earlier that, just the stillness and the peace and seeing those blooms come in.
I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly it. I think, well, you guys know this as well. This is the first time in our history that we're able to hear nature versus man, nature versus man-made noise. Like there are no cars, there are no airplanes, there are no people going to and from work. Very little or very few people are on the roads. There's no traffic. There are no horns. It's just for the first time you can hear nature so loudly. And it's really speaking to us in such a profound way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know one of your Instagram posts, and it wasn't particularly nature, but it was, I think were you at Rock Center? And it was the pinging of the flags. You could hear the flapping of the flags and the pinging of the metal that holds the flags in, and nothing else. There's no way you would have ever heard that on a regular day in the middle of Rockefeller Center.
Never. I've never heard that. I've been there so many times in my lifetime. And just it was like maybe 5 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon or 5 o'clock on a Saturday, I was going for a long run down Fifth Avenue because there's no traffic. So I decided to take advantage of the Fifth Avenue, just ran down, and I stopped at Rock Center and took a video. And the moment I was videotaping, at the same time, St. Pat's Cathedral, the bells went off. And I've never been able to hear the bells at St. Pat's Cathedral, especially when it's 2 blocks away. So to hear the pinging of the flags with the breeze, it was just a surreal moment of understanding like your place in time, and that very moment of, wow, this is surreal. It's really surreal that we can hear these little microcosm moments that are beautiful.
How do you think this will change us once things sort of go back to what you would think of as near normal?
That's a great question. I was just asking my boyfriend the same question. How do you think this is going to change us? And I really hope it changes us for the better. I hope that we are able to learn from what nature's teaching us. I don't know, Steve. That's a really great question. I keep wondering, how is this going to change us? And is this going to open our ears to being closer to the earth? Because I'm seeing a lot of people now cooking a lot more at home, and they're harvesting a lot more food in their home gardens. And I see a lot more people are gardening at home, which I love to see. So I don't know if this is going to be more of a connection to things that are closer to us, like a community like Serenbe, more attuned to wanting to live in a community that's closer to the land and closer to one another, obviously. So it's a great question. I wish I knew that answer.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked before about how many times in high-rise buildings where people live so closely, yet they don't know their neighbors. Have you seen that changing?
Yes and no. There's a fear factor of being in the building, so people aren't even leaving their apartments that much. There have been notes in my apartment that, hey, if anyone needs anything, yet when I leave even just walking out my apartment, I live on the 11th floor, I put my mask and my gloves on just to go downstairs to get my mail in my building. Right. No one shares an elevator in my building. Everyone's still, I'll wait to the next one, or they're taking the stairs down. I've seen nobody on my floor in weeks. So from March 13th to last Wednesday, I didn't see another human being, except for my doorman in passing when he'd fling a package at me when I'd be walking by very quickly. I hadn't spoken to another human face to face, and it had been almost a month. So,
whoa.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
It's very isolating. And New York City is like that. If you're not married, you don't live with somebody, and you're not allowed to, I haven't seen any friends. I haven't seen my family. My family lives very close to me. We haven't seen each other, my uncles at least, because we know how unsafe it is. Just God forbid I was a carrier and I got them sick, or vice versa. It's been really challenging. I think the only thing that's keeping me sane have been my walks. That's really that's the only time I don't feel alone, when I'm in nature. So it really has been my time to just to be out there and just to listen, to smell, and to touch like the blooms. It's really the only time I don't feel alone is when I'm outdoors going for my walks. Otherwise, I'm in my apartment all by myself, and it's been challenging. It's been really challenging.
Well, you said that you've rearranged your furniture a couple times, right?
I did. I really did. I kept thinking, this might look good for a little while, or this might look good. And it's very surreal because every day I kept thinking, I'll go I'll go see someone later. I'll go this place so-and-so this time. I think, I have nowhere to go. I really have nowhere to go. But again, I'm walking so many places, and the walking really helps me clear my mind always.
Well, and one thing that I think you're okay talking about, because it was very public, but you kind of you were out doing one of those walks, and you you had a very public breakdown on social media that's, I know, been picked up a little bit. Tell us kind of how that happened and what led up to it and what you've sort of taken away from that.
It was, I shared it. I decided to take the video, and I got very emotional when I started taping it. I didn't expect to become so emotional. I thought I could either delete it or save it to myself or just share what I felt. And I thought, I'm just going to share it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I was super emotional. So I was out for a run, and I had heard that they were building a field hospital in Central Park. I just didn't know exactly where. So I was going for my run, and all of a sudden, everyone's out kind of doing their own thing. It was the afternoon, and I'm sorry, it wasn't afternoon, it was the morning. And I was going for my run, and all of a sudden I just kind of stumbled upon it, and there it was. And to think that's where I lie in the grass and just like relax. And that's where I lay for so many days, just to be happy. And I've played in that lawn before, and just to think the beauty of all the people coming together to help one another. And then to see it was that. And just to see all the people staring at it, and like they're very emotional looking at it, thinking, wow, there's a hospital being set up in the park. But what was also so emotional is that nature is the world's greatest hospital. And to think, oh my God, these people are going to be in a tent in nature. Like, it's the most beautiful thing, but it's also surreal thinking that there's a morgue. So they're building a hospital and a morgue at the same time. So it was just, it was so many emotions at once that just took over my entire body. And it got picked up by a few news stations and some people. And it was just it's a very raw emotional moment. So yeah, that's what happened.
The city is not the city. You know, when you moved there 10 plus years ago?
I moved back 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, it's everything. New York's a fabulous city. It's got everything you'd ever want. Do you think that your relationship with it is changing? Do you have a sense if you want to like stay there, or I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing from different people that they're really rethinking what they want during this time.
It's a great question. There's two parts of that. Some parts I think, God, I love it so much. I want to see everybody and I want to go to every restaurant. I want to, at the same time, like the economy is being crushed and paychecks are being crushed. And I don't know if these businesses are going to survive, and I don't know what's going to be there to go back to. And we don't even know when we're going to be able to enter out there again and see people. And I'm kind of caught between two, because I'm thinking, oh, it'd be so nice just to set up my life outside the city so I could actually be amongst people, not even like close quarters, but just to like see people on the street, like Serenbe. I'm sure at least you can see people 6 feet away and wave and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to build a garden in my backyard and be outdoors more. But thankfully, Central Park, I'm able to go every day and I feel connected that way. So I don't really know. I'm kind of torn right now. Definitely.
Yeah, one of your very good friends that is now our neighbor is Susan O'Connor, right?
Oh, Susan. Yes.
She, you know, she's here now, and she came from New York and had a moment where she was like, I'm done. Yep. And before COVID happened, she had come down and bought a place, and she just, you know, it just was finished. And I want to say she moved in like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right before it all hit in New York. I mean, I remember her coming. She's like, I need to sit with you. I need to have lunch with you. And it was like December. She said, I'm bringing myself to Serenbe and I'm going to get a place. I'm like, no, you're not. What? Just like that. She said, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to go see, and I'm planning on buying a house there. And she did.
I know.
She knew it. She felt it. So, she moved down there 2 weeks before it all really happened. So talk about timing.
I know, right?
I've seen her almost every day. She's either on her porch or out. This afternoon, she was out gardening, doing some things. I don't know what she was doing in her new garden.
I love that.
It's just all different. And even though she's brand new, people are walking by and waving. And
great. She loves that. We actually, you guys will love this. We did a little Zoom dinner, pizza and beer, the first night she was there. So we had a little Zoom pizza party for the kickoff of our first night in her house. And she was showing me around, and we had pizza and chatted about the new life at Serenbe. She's like, I love that everyone's coming by. I just got here and people are already waving. And she already, she did a video Zoom yoga class from her new house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. It's so great.
All right. I love it. One of the things that you talked about in the interview, which I'm super curious, what's the status, is your Ocean Grove summer times that you do. And usually you would open that up. What is that, May or June?
May. We open in May.
What's going on there? Obviously it can't be opened up, right?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. They haven't said anything yet. Okay. So usually you can open the tents by May 15th, 20th timeframe. So if the tents were open right now, I'd probably go. I would most likely go right now and just be in a tent. I don't care how cold it is. I would just be there. But we hope, pray to God, fingers crossed, all that kind of stuff, that we can go back in May or June. Really
at some point it has to be this summer. They'll figure something out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you here? I mean, like, as we're talking to you, sort of New York is heading into sort of what they're calling, I guess, the apex. And when this comes out, it'll be, hopefully that apex will have passed. And I don't know, Georgia might be in one. It'll be sort of in the late April, early May. Does Cuomo have any updates for you guys, or giving you what to do, how we're going?
Yeah, we all watch our daily Cuomo updates now. I think it's a thing. Everyone gets excited to watch Andrew Cuomo every day to find out how our lives are going to play out for the next few weeks. But he said, we still have another, at least till April 29th, until we have to do shelter in place. And then we figure out what's going to be next and what can open next in May. So it's going to be a really interesting time. And I'm just excited that I can still sit here and continue to build the Walk with Walsh platform and to continue to do interviews on Instagram Live or Facebook Live and the Nature Green Print, and teach more people about the healing benefits of biophilia and biophilic design indoors. So people never really thought about their indoor spaces, not as much as they are now, because now they're living and working from home. So now they're saying, oh, I didn't think about the power of plants inside. I didn't think about the power of light and your circadian rhythm. So it's been really fun for me to just say it's so important to understand how much light you need every day. And how much a pet impacts your life. So I learned so much from our interview with Richard Louv, talking about our relationship with animals, and to see the boom of people adopting right now across the country. And that's because of our relationship with nature and animals. We've always been there, but for so long we blocked it off because we were too busy to accept animals into our lives. And here we are, able to do it.
I know, we were saying it's like our dog's best life right now because everybody's home and he gets all this attention and walks all the time more than he ever did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know that you have been looking for some volunteering to do. That's something that you've done in past crises.
Yes.
And I know it's probably hard because there's sort of a push-pull of being in groups and how can you help. Have you been finding things that you're interested in doing or able to sort of participate?
We're going to find out in the next few days if my boyfriend and I might do some feeding of the workers. So we're trying to get those, finding out who needs what, where. And that's the hard part because everyone's so busy. So find the right people that can say, yes, we need food at this hospital, or these police officers need food. We're trying to see if that's still a need because there are so many people now descending on New York, which is incredible with help. So we're going to find out probably in the next 3 to 4 days if we are able to help in that way. And if not, then maybe we can just lend our hands and just drive around the city and bring meals or whatever we can.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, anything else you want to add? Definitely let us know. Where should we follow you?
Instagram is the Jennifer Walsh. And of course, the walkwithwalsh.com is where all the current information is. So I just miss you guys. I was supposed to be down there this past week.
I know.
And everything. I just thought, oh my gosh, this past Saturday, I had like a little tear just thinking, oh, I was supposed to be with you guys.
I know. Well, everybody can watch the Walks with Walsh to see you and all your amazing interviews.
At Serenbe, great feedback, beautiful. By the way, all the interviews are so important right now. It's incredible to watch them back and say, oh, everything that was shared was so relevant to what's happening right now in the world. It's pretty cool. It's really cool.
Well, look forward to the next time you're down here. We can walk the trails.
I can't wait, Steve. I'm so excited to see you. I'm going to give you all a giant hug when I see you next time.
I know, right? Just wait.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for letting us catch up with you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see you soon.
Yeah, stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, Jennifer.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Serenbe Stories. New episodes are available on Mondays. Please rate and review the podcast and make sure to email your questions for Steve Nygren to stories@serenbe.com. You may even get to hear them on the podcast. More details about episodes and guests are available on our website, serenbestories.com.